Hey Celtics Nation, we need to break down what just happened in the last game because, honestly, it was a roller coaster of frustration and disappointment. The first half looked promising. 21 points in the first quarter, 15 in the second, and you could feel that momentum building. The team looked sharp, confident, and ready to dominate. But then, something completely fell apart in the third quarter, and it is genuinely inexcusable. The defensive lapses, the poor execution, and the inability to maintain consistency cost Boston big time. Utah came alive in that stretch, shooting in a near-perfect clip from the field, connecting on threes, and taking full advantage of the Celtics' errors. Meanwhile, Boston struggled, missing shots, failing to capitalize on turnovers, and allowing second-chance opportunities that the Jazz converted with ease. The rebounding numbers tell the story of a team that just couldn't hold its ground. While Boston managed to grab a decent number of offensive rebounds, the defensive rebounding was abysmal. They allowed Utah to snatch a staggering 41.7% of their missed shots, leaving the Celtics scrambling far too often. On top of that, turnovers were another glaring issue. Forcing turnovers is one thing, but actually converting them into points is entirely different, and that has been a recurrent problem. When you look at the numbers, Boston forced almost twice as many turnovers as they committed, but the points gained off those turnovers barely surpassed what they gave up. That inefficiency reflects a larger issue with execution, focus, and finishing plays when the opportunity arises. The fouls were yet another point of concern. The team continues to commit unnecessary fouls, disrupting rhythm and giving opponents free points at the line. Even though the Celtics had moments where second-chance points were favorable, the repeated lapses in positioning and discipline made those wins in that category almost meaningless. The box-outs and positioning, especially down the stretch, were shocking. Players who should be reliable in securing rebounds failed, allowing opponents to dominate crucial possessions. That inability to establish a strong base, hold positioning, and fight for rebounds under pressure is not just a single-game problem. It's a structural flaw that keeps appearing in Boston's lineup. Physicality, awareness, and control of the body are non-negotiable aspects of rebounding. And when those fundamentals are ignored or poorly executed, it is impossible to win consistently, no matter the talent on the floor. Even the contributions from players with a promising start or high energy can be nullified when basic skills like boxing out or securing rebounds are neglected. Shooting has also become a major concern for this team. There were stretches where nothing seemed to fall, creating chaos not just on offense, but on defense as well. When shots aren't dropping, long rebounds lead to fast breaks for opponents, forcing Celtics players into scramble defense, often leaving them out of position, overcommitting, and committing unnecessary fouls. The shooting slump compounds existing weaknesses, highlighting the fragility of spacing and lineup rotations. Some players who are normally consistent from three-point range struggled to find their rhythm, while others, who aren't typically relied upon for outside scoring, were forced to take shots that simply weren't high percentage. This inconsistency stretches the defense thin and creates opportunities for opponents to capitalize on mismatches, turnovers, and fast breaks. Lineup rotations have been another area of concern. The coaching staff has been trying to find the right combinations, swapping players frequently in response to rebounding struggles, poor spacing, and defensive issues. While the intention is understandable, the results have been mixed at best. With several unreliable shooters or players out of position on the floor at the same time, the team often finds itself unable to execute effectively. Key players end up pressured to create opportunities in situations where spacing and passing angles are compromised, leading to missed shots, turnovers, and a general breakdown of offensive flow. The back-and-forth substitutions may provide short-term solutions, but they also highlight a larger roster problem. Boston lacks depth in certain areas, and the inconsistency in performance exposes that vulnerability. Individual efforts have shown at times, though. Certain players have stepped up in big moments, carrying the team with scoring bursts, drives to the basket, and trips to the line. But even those standout performances can only do so much if the team as a whole is unable to secure rebounds, hit shots consistently, and maintain defensive discipline. Isolation plays are limited, and without consistent spacing and efficiency from multiple players, the burden falls on a few to compensate for collective shortcomings. Even excellent individual efforts are mitigated by structural flaws and lapses in fundamental execution across the roster. Fundamentally, the issues boil down to three main factors: rebounding, shooting, and defensive consistency. The Celtics are capable of brilliance, but when these three elements falter simultaneously, it becomes nearly impossible to control the game. Missed opportunities, poor positioning, turnovers, and missed free throws all compound, leading to losses that could have been avoided with better focus and execution. Momentum swings, confidence, and energy are all affected, and it's clear that the team needs to address these structural flaws if they hope to compete at a high level consistently. The impact of the poor third-quarter collapse cannot be overstated. That was the turning point where the game slipped away. No single foul, missed shot, or disputed call at the end can compensate for the consistent errors and lapses that occurred earlier. While fans may focus on the moments in the final minute, the truth is that Boston lost control much earlier. The inability to sustain intensity, execute fundamentals, and respond to the opponent's strengths created a deficit that became insurmountable. These are the kinds of games that are frustrating because the team showed potential early, but allowed preventable mistakes to snowball into a loss that could have been avoided with better preparation, discipline, and in-game adjustments. From the perspective of individual matchups, some players struggled with body control and positioning, leading to crucial rebounds being lost and defensive plays being compromised. Strength, base, and leverage are fundamental in basketball, especially in the paint, and when these are lacking, it doesn't matter how athletic or energetic a player is. In these situations, even a talented player can be rendered ineffective. Rebounding is not just about jumping ability. It's about positioning, understanding angles, and using body control to secure possession. The Celtics' struggles here have been consistent, and it remains a critical area that must be addressed. When the Celtics are missing shots at this volume, it's not just about points left on the floor, it directly impacts defensive efficiency. Long rebounds from missed three-pointers or contested jumpers create transition opportunities for opponents, forcing Boston into scramble defense. And that's where a lot of the fouls and mismatches come from. When spacing is poor, the players who are normally reliable for creating offense are under pressure to do more than they realistically can. This has a ripple effect across the lineup. Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and others are often left trying to manufacture scoring opportunities in crowded lanes with limited angles, which inevitably leads to turnovers or forced shots. Meanwhile, opponents exploit the gaps and mismatches, putting more pressure on the Celtics' already struggling defensive rotations. One of the glaring issues we've seen is the inconsistency of role players stepping up. Some nights, players like Josh Min, Luka Garza, or Chris Bichette can provide secondary scoring and spacing, but their reliability from deep is questionable. It's a problem when a team needs to stretch the floor to create driving lanes or open looks for isolation plays. If the perimeter shooting isn't there, defenders can sag into the paint, clog driving lanes, and reduce scoring efficiency for Boston's primary creators. Jaylen Brown has been carrying a huge load this season, and while he can sometimes shoulder the scoring responsibility, even he cannot overcome a lack of spacing, poor shooting from teammates, and subpar rebounding by himself. Another key aspect of this team's struggles is the rebounding disparity against bigger, more physical opponents. When facing teams like Utah or Houston, Boston's big men and forwards often get outmatched in strength and positioning. Nimishkata's performance illustrates this perfectly. While he had flashes of energy and contributed positively in several moments, his fundamentals, particularly his base and ability to hold position, were exposed in crucial moments. Basketball at this level is won or lost in the details, and missing key rebounds and critical possessions undermines the team's overall execution. The inability to box out consistently, secure the defensive rebound, and control the paint has been a recurring theme, not an isolated incident. It's an issue that forces the Celtics to fight from behind repeatedly, creating stress and pressure that can't be fully offset by individual scoring efforts. Turnovers are another dimension of the problem. Forcing turnovers is valuable, but unless the team can convert those opportunities into points at a higher rate than they allow opponents off their mistakes, the advantage is wasted. Boston has struggled in this area, as evidenced by the recent games where the team forced more turnovers than they committed, but only converted marginally more points off those opportunities. This inefficiency undermines the defensive pressure they're trying to generate, and it creates situations where momentum swings back in favor of the opponent. The inability to capitalize on these chances is part of a broader problem with execution under pressure, decision-making in the paint, and the effectiveness of offensive sets. Lineup experimentation has been necessary given the team's inconsistencies, but it also exposes the roster's weaknesses. Switching between different combinations of shooters, non-shooters, and players with varying defensive abilities can create gaps that opponents exploit. Joe Mazzulla's efforts to find the right mix are understandable, but the results have been uneven. Certain stretches of the game feature poor spacing, unreliable shooters, and a lack of cohesion, which exacerbates defensive lapses, turnover risks, and shot selection problems. In other words, the search for a functional lineup has sometimes created more problems than it solves, highlighting the limits of the current roster's depth and versatility. The game's outcome is rarely dictated by one single call, missed shot, or last-second play, and that is absolutely true in this case. While there may have been moments in the final minute that fans remember, the tripped player, the non-call, or the missed free throw, the root cause of the loss lies in the repeated failures throughout the game. Third-quarter collapses, defensive breakdowns, poor rebounding, and inefficiency in converting opportunities are the reasons the Celtics find themselves in these tight situations. These cumulative mistakes make it impossible to rely on isolated plays to swing the game in their favor. Boston must improve fundamentals, effort, and execution in a consistent fashion to prevent these scenarios from recurring. Even when looking at individual performances, the narrative is mixed. Jaylen Brown continues to produce at a high level and is often the difference maker, but even his impressive efforts are diminished by systemic flaws elsewhere. Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, and other key contributors have moments of quality, but inconsistency in shooting and decision-making under pressure affects the team's overall rhythm. Secondary scoring, spacing, and rebounding support are all crucial, and when those components falter, the weight of winning falls disproportionately on a few players. A team cannot rely solely on individual brilliance over the course of a season. Sustainable success comes from collective execution, discipline, and balanced contributions across the roster. Finally, the Celtics' struggles highlight the importance of fundamentals at the professional level. Shooting, rebounding, positioning, defensive rotations, and offensive spacing all matter, and deficiencies in any one area can compound quickly. When fundamentals break down, the game becomes much harder to control, regardless of talent. Boston's recent games illustrate that even a strong start and moments of brilliance cannot overcome persistent lapses in execution. If the team wants to compete consistently, especially against physical and disciplined opponents, attention to detail, consistent effort, and maximizing each possession are non-negotiable. The Celtics have the talent, but translating that talent into consistent performance requires addressing these fundamental weaknesses, improving cohesion, and minimizing preventable mistakes. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the NBA and left fans reeling, the Boston Celtics have reportedly made a stunning announcement. Star guard Anthony Simons is set to leave the team. The news, which first leaked early this morning, has ignited a frenzy of speculation, debates, and disbelief across social media and sports talk shows alike. Sources close to the organization suggest that the decision was not entirely mutual, and whispers of tension behind the scenes are now fueling endless rumors about what truly led to the parting of ways. For a team that has long prided itself on stability and strategic acquisitions, The potential departure of Simons marks a seismic shift. Celtics fans, in particular, are mourning the loss of a player who quickly became a cornerstone of the squad's offensive firepower. Known for his lightning-quick handles, clutch shooting, and ability to ignite momentum in critical moments, Simons' presence on the floor often felt larger than life. He wasn't just a player. He was an energy source, one anonymous fan commented online, reflecting the widespread sense of heartbreak and disbelief. The rumor mill is now running at full speed. Could this be the opening move in a larger trade scenario? Are the Celtics aiming for a different strategic direction? Or is this simply a shakeup designed to jolt the locker room? Speculation abounds, with analysts noting that teams across the league may already be circling to scoop up the talented guard, whose star power continues to rise despite the tumultuous season. The uncertainty surrounding his next destination has created a storm of excitement and anxiety, leaving fans torn between hope and sorrow. Meanwhile, social media has erupted with tributes and nostalgic clips, highlighting Simons' most memorable performances in a Celtics jersey. Memes, hot takes, and heated discussions flood every platform, as fans grapple with the reality of losing a player many considered untouchable. For now, the Celtics organization has remained tight-lipped, offering only a brief statement hinting at strategic adjustments and future plans. But the streets of Boston and the basketball world at large are buzzing with theories, predictions, and, above all, disbelief. One thing is certain. The Celtics' decision to part ways with Anthony Simons has created one of the most talked-about rumors of the NBA season, and the fallout is only just beginning. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.